Have you ever wondered how you can have two similar portfolios with a person taking the same income but end up with two drastically different results? Well, stay tuned because we're going to talk more about how that can happen.
Retiring Well, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well, where we believe your best is yet to come.
Okay, folks, we're going to have a little fun with this, okay? We're going to have two brothers, okay? They're both going to retire with $500,000, $500,000. They're going to take 5% out for income, okay, which would be $25,000 per year. Okay, they're invested exactly the same. Two similar portfolios, no difference. And I'm going to add this. They're in the same tax qualified accounts, meaning the same mix of IRA, the same mix of Roth IRA, and maybe non-retirement money. Okay, they're exactly the same. Now, the two brothers, we got Steve and we got Bill. Steve starts off with his $500,000, takes his 5% out each year for income, and in the next 10 years, his account value ends up being worth $1,377,510. Folks, he just about tripled his money while he comfortably took 5% out each year for income. Now, Bill, his brother, remember, he's retiring at the same age, with the same exact portfolio, taking his 5% out each year for income, and at the end of 10 years, his account is worth $205,943. He just about lost 2/3 of his money. Folks, what happened? What happened? Now I'm going to leave this question out for you, right? Think about that. How can we have two drastically different results when they had two similar portfolios? Now, I'll have some people jokingly say, well, Bill, who had a drastically bad result, maybe some catastrophe happened, right? No, they had two similar portfolios. If there was any kind of a catastrophe, it happened to both. All right? Well, maybe Steve won the lotto, right? That had to be what happened. No, we're going to leave that outside, right? Nothing outside of the investments happened. They were both similar, and they both ended up with a different result. What could have possibly happened? You're thinking about this, right? And you're thinking, how? Well, I'm going to show you. This is what happened. Steve retired right here in 1990, and look what he got the next 10 years, between 1990 and 2000. Bill retired in 2000, and look what he got the next 10 years. Folks, the only difference in those two scenarios, those two situations, those two brothers, is simply when they retired. They retired at the same age, but they retired at a different time. Now, think about that. The only difference being when I retired. See, here's a point. Look at this. Between 1960 and 1980, that looks pretty volatile, right? But look at this period. We had 2 decades of unprecedented growth. So what's happening right here in 1980? Companies are getting away from pension plans. It's the beginning of all those contributory plans we know today, like IRAs and 401ks and the like. And what generation is just getting ready to save for retirement? The boomers. And look what we get for the next 20 years. But then what? We get 2000. All right? The tech bubble. Market drops to half its value in a 2.5-year period. And then it no sooner comes back by 2007, and then we get the credit crash of 2008. It drops to half its value again. Had I been somebody like Bill taking income in that period of time, look what the result was. Terrible. Here's the point I want to make here. Here's what you need to see. You look at this period right now, this is a new reality for us. Watching the market have a lot of volatility. If I'm that person trying to take income from a portfolio, I can't have this. I can't have this. Think about it. If I'm taking 5% income from a portfolio, and now that portfolio drops to half its value, well, now that 5% I'm taking is actually 10%. How am I going to grow that back? So, and we're going to talk in the next segment about how you might want to structure your portfolio or investments, especially if you're near retirement or retirement, taking income. So stay tuned.
Today's retirement challenges can be mastered. Knowledge is power because you can confidently plan ahead and make educated financial decisions for a successful and comfortable retirement. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning, serving all of northern Michigan with offices in Traverse City, Cadillac, Petoskey, and Gaylord. And we invite you to an informative and exciting live event with a complimentary gourmet dinner. You'll learn highlights of the new Tax Reform Act, the difference between the fiduciary and suitability standard of care, how an IRA gets taxed to a surviving spouse, how two similar portfolios can end up with two drastically different results, what a bull market is and how long it can last, and much more. Call 888-608-5825 to register and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, March 5th at Big Buck Brewery in Gaylord. Wednesday, March 6th at Boone's Long Lake Inn in Traverse City. Tuesday, March 12th at Cadillac Grill at the Eldorado Golf Course in Cadillac. The live event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important live event. Educated financial decisions. Call 888-608-5825 today. Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580.
Hi, welcome back. Now, as I discussed in that first segment, unbelievable. Two similar portfolios meeting with totally different drastic results, right? And the only difference was when they both retired and simply what market they got. So here's just a question I want to ask you. You know, how willing are you willing to gamble what you've worked so hard for your entire life for the possibility that you might get a market that Steve got, but what if you get the market that Bill got? Think about that. So how do you want to avoid that kind of a pitfall, right? Well, let's just go back to that 5% I was talking about in the earlier segment that they were taking for income. That used to be what they called a safe withdrawal rate, an amount by which you could pull from a portfolio and still maintain your principal and maybe even grow it a little bit over time. Folks, it wasn't brain surgery. A lot of it came out of the 80s and 90s. Here's the concept. If the market is making 5, 6, 7% pretty consistently, and I'm only pulling out 4 or 5%, well, guess what? That's going to work all day long, right? I'm making 5, 6, 7 while I'm pulling out 4 or 5. Absolutely, I'm going to maintain my principal and maybe grow it a little bit, right? But like I said, what if I get a market like 2000 through 2002 or 2008, and that market drops to half its value? You can see how the result ended up for Bill, right? Lost almost 2/3 of his portfolio in that period between 2000 and 2010. You don't want to have that happen. So what are some things you might want to do different? All right, think about this. If I'm taking income from a portfolio, liken it to maybe like rock climbing. I don't know if you've seen that movie out there called Free Solo, right? This is a guy that climbed this cliff, okay, with no ropes, no parachutes. All right. Now, as he prepared to do this free solo, he went up a lot of different times practicing in different faces of this rock cliff with the ropes and fell a couple times or a few times. as he was trying to figure out how to maneuver this thing. That was nerve-wracking, because then the day he decided to go up this cliff with no ropes or parachutes, it was scary because we'd seen him fall before. Well, think about this. If I'm in retirement and I'm taking income, I kind of want my investments to be kind of structured the same way. As I'm trying to climb that rock cliff, trying to get some growth, trying to get some income, I want to know that if things go bad, I've got a safety net, right? Whether that be a parachute or that be a rope or whatever. Okay, that's kind of how you want to structure things. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. Okay, one might be called what they call a laddered approach. Okay, what if I took some of the money, my income needs that I might need over the next 5 years, and let's say that's 5% per year. Let's use that number. So I know in the next 5 years that I want 25% of my savings to be set aside just for that income in the next 5 years. Now, what kind of accounts am I going to have that invested in? Well, it's going to be one, very liquid, right? I'm probably not, I want it to be fully safe. I'm probably not going to make a lot right now in that kind of environment, but let's just say that's in a money market account, or maybe it's a, some laddered CDs that got 1 year at a time, so some's always coming new. And let's say that's getting maybe 2%. And then I want to have another bucket maybe for the next 5 to 10 years, right? That's money I don't need to touch for 5 years because I've got that other bucket providing my income for the next 5 years. So that's going to be my 5 to 10 year money, right? Well, now that might be able to bring some other kinds of investments in that I can commit for 5 years without needing it, right? That might give me just a tad bit more interest, right? That might be like a 5-year CD, or maybe what an insurance company would offer, like a 5-year fixed annuity, right? Giving me just a little better interest. So if I got my next 10 years income all set, what about the rest of it in a 10-year or more bucket? Couldn't that be in some more riskier type investments that have a potential to grow and give me a little better income, but I don't need in the next 10 years in case something happens? Folks, that's one way to handle it. Now, another way to handle it is what we call the 5-bucket approach, and I'm going to talk about that in Chalk Talk. Now, if you're somebody that wants to structure your portfolio, you're going to want to give us a call, and maybe we'll show you maybe which one might work best for you. So give us a call if we can be of any help. Stay tuned. I know you're going to enjoy it. Have you ever heard the 5% rule? Simple. Consistently earn 5% each year and then take 5% as income. Great, but in this new economy and market volatility, does it work? If I need 5% as income from my savings and the market drops 30% in 1 year, then the 5% I need now turns to 7.1%. Now I have to consistently get 7.1% or more or drop my income accordingly. If interested in a properly structured income plan, then please call the number on the screen.
Today's retirement challenges can be mastered. Knowledge is power because you can confidently plan ahead and make educated financial decisions for a successful and comfortable retirement. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning, serving all of northern Michigan with offices in Traverse City, Cadillac, Petoskey, and Gaylord. And we invite you to an informative and exciting live event with a complimentary gourmet dinner. You'll learn highlights of the new Tax Reform Act, the difference between the fiduciary and suitability standard of care, how an IRA gets taxed to a surviving spouse, how two similar portfolios can end up with two drastically different results, what a bull market is and how long it can last, and much more. Call 888-608-5825 to register and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, March 5th at Big Buck Brewery in Gaylord. Wednesday, March 6th at Boone's Long Lake Inn in Traverse City. Tuesday, March 12th at Cadillac Grill at the Eldorado Golf Course in Cadillac. The live event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important live event. Educated Financial Decisions. Call 888-608-5825 today. Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580.
Hi, welcome back. This is Chalk Talk. Now, I told you in the earlier segment, if you just try to take everything, you put all your eggs in one basket and you try to take all your income out of just that one basket, listen, it's going to be challenging, because if you have any kind of market fluctuations at all, if we experience, for example, a 2008 when the market drops to half its value, how is that going to work now if you're trying to take income? So how might you best structure this? Well, we call this what we call the 5-bucket approach, okay? So here's our total savings. Now, for all practical purposes, that total savings could be a mix of a lot of different things. It could be IRA money. It could be Roth IRA money. It could be what we call non-qualified money, which really just simply means non-retirement money, right? It could be a combination of a lot of different things. But for just illustration purposes, let's just assume it's all one thing, okay? So here's our total savings, all right? Now, I want to set some money aside for emergencies, right? Now, a lot of people, they have different numbers for this. You hear 3 months income, you might hear 6 months income. For all practical purposes, I try to follow the 6-month rule, okay? So I want to take my total income, my income needs for the year, and let's set up half of that, and let's put that in this bucket right here. That's what I call my emergency fund. Now, what kind of investments I'm going to have that invested in? Well, it's going to be, first of all, if it's for emergencies, I need it to be highly liquid, all right? I need it to be readily available at any given time. So I'm not going to want to have it tied up. So most likely, this is going to be my checking and savings accounts, right? And so I'll set what I have in my total savings. Let's set that aside, put that in this bucket. Then I want to establish some monies for income. All right, that would be this bucket right here. All right, now what kind of investments is that going to look like? Well, if I'm that person taking 4 or 5% out for income, and that's what my needs are, then this bucket is going to be something that's going to have to make about 4, 5, 6% with no market fluctuations, right? I want to be able to count on that money. Now, historically, that kind of bucket has been fixed income accounts or bonds, when, remember, they were paying 5, 6, 7%. But I'm going to want to set aside money for income. The next area I want to set money aside for is conservative growth, okay? This is money that I maybe don't need for income, but I might need in the next, say, 10 years. Maybe that's home repairs. Maybe it's home remodeling. Maybe it's the car repairs, right? But any monies that I'm going to want to need and have set aside for the next 10 years is going to go in this bucket. Now, what kind of investments is that going to look like? Well, I'm not going to want a lot of market fluctuation because, I'm going to need it in the next 10 years. So the kind of investments this account is going to be invested in is accounts that, let's say, maybe might lose 10%, but we're going to maybe make 10%. That's kind of the range. Now, if I've satisfied my needs for emergencies, I've satisfied my need for income, and then maybe the needs I have maybe over the next 10 years, the rest can go in this bucket. This is what we call the growth bucket. Now, the kind of investments this account is going to be invested in is accounts that, well, maybe they can lose 30%, but also gain 30%. Now, think about this. When you were in your working years and you had your investments, you didn't need it for income. Your risk tolerance was much greater, all right? You could weather market fluctuations. Well, that's likened to this. If I've met my income needs, set aside money for emergencies and monies I need for the next 10 years, well, can this experience a little bit more fluctuations? Absolutely. Can it be in some more, what I would call a little more riskier type of accounts? Absolutely. So that's what we're going to have in this bucket. Now, If I've satisfied my needs for my emergencies, for income, needs over the next 10 years, and the rest in the growth bucket, is it conceivable that I might be fortunate enough to have that never ever gonna spend money? All right, this is money that most likely all my needs are being met, I'm not gonna spend. Well, that money we might put in a legacy bucket. All right, that's gonna go to the heirs, and trying to grow that for them and make that a greater benefit might be an advantage. So folks, we call this the 5-bucket approach, but it works real well. It's something you want to consider. If it's something you want to hear more about, then certainly give us a call and we'll talk to you more about it. Thanks.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
Today's retirement challenges can be mastered. Knowledge is power because you can confidently plan ahead and make educated financial decisions for a successful and comfortable retirement. We are Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning, serving all of northern Michigan with offices in Traverse City, Cadillac, Petoskey, and Gaylord. And we invite you to an informative and exciting live event with a complimentary gourmet dinner. You'll learn highlights of the new Tax Reform Act, the difference between the fiduciary and suitability standard of care, how an IRA gets taxed to a surviving spouse, how two similar portfolios can end up with two drastically different results, what a bull market is and how long it can last, and much more. Call 888-608-5825 to register and choose the date and location that works best for you. Tuesday, March 5th at Big Buck Brewery in Gaylord. Wednesday, March 6th at Boone's Long Lake Inn in Traverse City. Tuesday, March 12th at Cadillac Grill at the Eldorado Golf Course in Cadillac. The live event starts at 6 p.m. and is free to attend with a complimentary gourmet dinner to follow. But seating is limited and fills quickly. Call 888-608-5825 to reserve your seats today. There is no cost and no obligation. Don't miss this important live event. Educated financial decisions. Call 888-608-5825 today.
Welcome back, folks. I'm sitting here today with Art Canfield, one of the financial advisors at Centennial Wealth Advisory. Art, glad to have you here today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Mike.
Well, fantastic. As you know, this week we're really talking about the stories of the Steve versus Bill. Those two brothers, they retire at different times of their lives, and they ended up with wildly different outcomes, mostly because they were essentially kind of relying on the market to cooperate to fund their retirements. And I know you come across people, you talk to people every day, and I'm sure you've got a story or two that relates to some of these types of conversations.
Yeah, how long do we got, Mike? I mean, the stories can go on, it seems like, and it's unfortunate. But one really comes to mind because it made such an impact on me, too, from the way that this couple presented it. And they were from northern Michigan, moved down to southeast Michigan for basically their working careers, ended up in the auto industry, both of them did. Wife retires, I think it was in 2006. She was happy retired. Husband was getting ready to retire in early 2008. Like, he was literally walking down to the HR office, to turn in his paperwork, and what happened? Market started to decline, correct? So he kind of said, I'll stick it out a little bit. He was pretty aggressively invested. So every day he opened his accounts or, his online statement, he would almost become more depressed, he would talk about.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Let's back up here a minute. So they're working downstate. The wife retired 2006. He's essentially filed paperwork to retire at the beginning of '08, but because the market is going south, he kind of postponed things. And as you can imagine, he wants to retire, so he walks into work every morning, checks his IRA balance, or 401k balance, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Right. He was telling us that in about the end of '06 or mid '07, they had about $1 million saved for retirement. And that was basically their goal. They kind of had that magic number in their mind. Hey, if we get this, I think we're going to be good, because they're fortunate enough to have pensions.
Got it. So they were at that million at the end of '07.
Right.
They must have dropped below in '08, I'm guessing. So he kept working.
He kept working.
How long did that go on?
You know, he actually ended up working 5 more years because he lost about $450,000
Holy cow!
during that time frame. And he was still contributing too on top of that. So he was feeding this thing as it was going down. You know, Mike, one of the things that stuck out to me when, you know, we talk about risk all the time, right? I mean, how much risk are you willing to take? And we asked that question to him, and he just kind of shook his head. And you know, everybody answers that question differently. But what he said to me was, he says, it's not in numbers anymore at this point in my life. We can talk about 5%, 10%, $100,000. It's about in time. At my age, he was mid-60s. He says, you know what that risk caused? It was 5 years lost of my grandchildren.
So what he was saying, now this is a big deal. Folks, I hope you heard this, because I'm going to make sure we're going to repeat this. What he was saying to you was, correct me if I'm wrong, he said, look, when you're asking me about what is risk, how much risk am I willing to take, you know, everybody says a number or a percentage, right? But he said, no. Risk to me is, it cost me 5 years of spending time with his grandchildren.
Correct.
Yeah, how many of you, by the way, folks, think about that. How many of you, because he was taking more risk than he should have when he was at retirement, he had to work 5 more years, that's 5 years of lost time. Right. Then you can't make that back.
No. And in his situation, he kept beating himself up because he was there, right?
Yeah.
He was there. And by having the wrong advice at the wrong time, not matching up to those goals, completely was devastating.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sure that by the time he got to you, you got him straightened out.
Yeah, it was fortunate. He was back to filing his retirement paperwork again, and that's when he come in. He says, guys, I can't do this again. How can we position us to where we can have a successful, happy retirement? The nice thing is, I just visited him again. That was about maybe 2-3 years ago. I just saw him the other day. Happy as can be, just bought themselves a pontoon boat. They're taking the kids out fishing now. And,
oh,
and it couldn't be
fantastic.
better, so.
Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
At least we have a happy ending there, right?
Right.
All right, well, Art, that was a great story. Really appreciate you being here this week. And folks, wow. You know, the markets in '08 crashed. People worked a lot more years. That was very common back then. You never know, the markets could crash again. You might find yourself in the same position. This is why you need to get that second opinion. That's our show this week, folks. Really appreciate you watching. Have a great weekend.